Okay. According to the government's white paper on international trade, Japan's imports are heavily dependent on certain countries such as China. And so in addition, recent years, some countries using abusively such a dependence in order to interfere in other countries' policy, so-called economic coercion. And that's why it's indispensable for Japanese government to scrutinize the situation where there is dependence on a specific country and encourage and support private sector to diversify procurement destination.
Norihiko-san, Lin here. I mean, we've seen the bifurcation between US and China acting as a bit of a tailwind for Japan. We've seen, of course, investments from companies like Microsoft, Micron, TSMC and others into Japan. But what about the US export controls as it relates to Japanese exporters, particularly in the semiconductor space? I'm thinking about, of course, these recent reports we've seen that could potentially see companies like Tokyo Electron being dragged into greater export controls vis-a-vis China. What's the feedback you're receiving from these sorts of companies?
Yeah. So as you mentioned, so Japanese semiconductor manufacturing sectors company, they are very concerned at the export control of the United States. And so that's why we need to provide useful information for the Japanese businesses. And we try to provide Japanese companies and the governments with useful information and policy recommendation.
And, you know, when we look at the yen, of course, it's appreciated from 161 in sort of early July now to around that 146 level. What is the feedback you're getting from Japanese exporters going forward in terms of the yen, which, of course, has been a tailwind for a lot of these companies?
The reality is that weakening yen hasn't benefited Japan's export. One of the reasons of that, Japanese big businesses have already established factories overseas and manufacture their products and sell them overseas. On the other hand, so as for domestic manufacturing, Japan's heavily dependent on the import for the energy and the resources. That means weakening yen increases cost in yen term of the utility, transportation, and the material.